Hi everybody, it's Trisha here. How are you? So I thought it was time that I start doing some gardening videos. I really enjoyed the process of bringing of the garden last year, last spring and summer, and even in the fall. And I enjoyed bringing you guys in to experience that with me. I had fun with that. So I thought, if you allowed me to, maybe I can bring you into my process this year again. And I figured we can start a little bit early with a few projects that we can do. I'm based in New York, New York City. It's cold. The last few days have been in the 20s, 10s and 20s. We had a little snow slash rainstorm yesterday and into last night. And today's in the 30s and 40s, but it's crazy windy out. So I figured I would try to think of things that we can do indoors with indoor plants, indoor blooming, whatever we can do, just to have a little winter interest. So if you'd like to go on that trip with me, you are welcome to go. So I'm filming in my kitchen. I was going to use a box as a workstation so you guys could see everything that I'm doing, but the box is really big, and if I used it, I won't be able to use the sink to get water and things that we need. So I'll just have to show you everything. So the project that I wanted to do today involved these. I'm going to hold it up so you can see. This is my second time doing the video. The first time was a little bit rough. I'm really new at this. But I figured I've been doing remote learning, remote teaching for a year now. I should be good at making videos. So we're going to use paperwhite Zivas. And what I want to do is I want to see what happens and how I can get paperwhite Zivas to bloom indoors. It's called forcing paperwhite Zivas. So I used these last year in the garden last year. I was really excited about it, but I didn't do any research on it. I just picked them up in, I think, Home Depot and came and planted them in the fall, and they came up in the spring. But the only thing with these is that they bloom, but they bloom for like 3 weeks, and then they're done. So I was a little bit disappointed, and I decided, okay, I'm not going to use these in the garden anymore, which was kind of silly, but I guess I was disappointed, like I said. So I figured this year I would do a little different project, and I picked these up, I think before the holidays. I think that's when I put the picture up. So it was sometime in December, and I figured maybe these would be nice for some winter interest indoors. And I had seen a couple of videos about having paper whites indoors, so I figured we'd see how it goes. So what I'm going to do, I have the bulbs, I have a vase that I'm going to use, and I also have some landscaping stones, and this is really all you need, and some water. So these are the landscaping stones. Maybe if I hold them up like this, you can see them better. And we have these all over the garden. I can't remember why I bought these. Oh yes, I bought these originally last year because I wanted to put 2 containers outside the fence. We've never put containers outside the fence before, so I was a little bit nervous about how they were going to do. I saw these 2 arborvitaes. They were called arborvitae Brandons, and they were pretty, and I liked the name, so I bought them. This is how I shop. So I got these 2 arborvitaes, and I got containers that they could go in. And to put them outside, I was a little bit nervous about putting it outside the gate because, you know, it's New York City. Sometimes people get sticky fingers, and I just wanted to make sure that they stayed where I put them. So I got the landscaping stones for no other reason but to make the pots heavy, the containers heavy, so it's not so easy for someone to jump out of their truck, put them in, and then drive away with them. And it worked. I had them outside. They looked really pretty. I hooked them up with petunias and other things, and it was really nice. So I was happy about that. I was feeling myself. I got 2 more containers, smaller ones. And again, I used the landscaping stones to make them heavy so they wouldn't be so easy to steal or borrow or whatever people want to call it. And I hooked that one up with sedum and with petunias, and that worked out. That worked out great for the petunias, not so great for the sedum, because the petunias took off and covered the sedum, and you couldn't even see. I forgot the sedum was even in there, and of course sedum's sitting there like, hi, what about me? So next year we'll do something different. But it worked out great. And then we had a lot going on this year. My dad was in the hospital, and then he passed, and you know, it was a very busy season. So we didn't even noticed that one of the pots was missing. Yes, someone took one of the pots. I think my mom was outside watering and she noticed it sometime in late August, early September. And when I went out, sure enough, one of the smaller pots was missing. So I hope you're doing well with my pot. Anyway, back to the project. So we had a lot of these around, so I figured I'd use some of these. So what we're going to do is I took some of these out of the garden and I washed them off. I did not use soap and water. I just washed them up in warm water because I don't want any soap residue in this water. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some of these landscaping stones in the bottom of this vase. So I'm using a tall container. I've seen it done with short containers, but I'm using a tall one. And the hope is that because these bulbs grow kind of big, and I'll show you what the bulb looks like in a second. They grow kind of tall, so I'm hoping using the tall container will give them a little structure and I won't have to stake them up. So we'll put this down here. And I just had a thought and I completely forgot what it was. Hopefully it comes back to me. So the idea is to put the landscaping stones first and then have the bulbs rest on the landscaping stone and add a little bit of water, because you don't want the bulbs to sit in water because then they'll rot, especially if they're sitting in water doing nothing. It's not like they're sitting in soil. You can do this with soil also. It's just a little bit different with soil. I think soil needs a little bit more sunlight. But if you're doing it with water, you've got to be careful that the bulbs don't sit in water. And I remembered what I wanted to say. Now, I'm going to do a little disclaimer right now because I feel like I need to. This is not a tutorial video. I am a very, very, very new gardener. Last year was my first year ever in the garden. I've always watched my mom garden and I've always, loved the finished product, but I was never really interested in doing it myself. And then last year I started becoming interested and I started doing it and I started learning a lot. But this is not a tutorial video because I don't feel I'm at the level of knowledge that I can teach people how to do things. I'm still learning. I'm still here to learn. There are many of you who might be seeing this video, who I might follow, who I've learned from, and I thank you for all the knowledge that you've given me. So I'm going to continue to learn from you. This video and the coming videos that I'm going to do are more for the purposes of inspiration, to inspire you, just to, if you want to do something in your garden, or even if you want to do other projects that have nothing to do with gardening. This is just to inspire you to take that first step. So I think I'm going to keep it at this. I'm not going to put any more. And now I'm going to add the bulbs. Now this is what the bulbs look like. These are the paperwhite sepia bulbs. They look a little kind of like onions. And I bought this, like I said, in the beginning of December, mid-December, before the holidays. So they already started sprouting a little bit. So normally this project would take maybe about 4 to 6 weeks for the Zivas to start to bloom. But since they're already sprouting a little bit, maybe it'll take less time. It could take as little as 2 to 3 weeks, according to my research. According to my research, if you can get that reference, please comment. I cannot be the only one dating myself. So I'm going to put them up. You want to put them up with the pointy side, the sprouting side up, and this side down. This is where the roots are going to come from. So this is where your new growth comes from. This is where your roots come from. So I'm going to see how many I have in here. I admit this is not the ideal container. I was trying to look for something that was a little bit more straight, but we're going to try it anyway. This is all about experimentation. So I'm going to put 4 in. If you had a container that was straighter, you can put more in, because the more you have, then when they grow, the fuller look you get. It looks like a really nice bouquet of paperwhite Zivas. But I'm going to stick to 4 right now, just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to add water. Look at my cup. I love this cup. Some of my neighbors went to Jamaica for a Christmas vacation because they're from there. So they traveled and they came back with goodies, including this cup. And I love it. I love the colors. I love the Jamaica One Love. It's just, it makes me happy. So this might be my new work cup. It comes with a top and a straw, a little metal straw and everything. Okay, so I'm gonna put some water. Now, it occurs to me I probably should have put the water before I put the bulbs, so I don't get the bulbs all wet, but that's okay, they'll dry off. Now the point is, like I said before, you don't want the bulbs sitting in water because they'll rot. So you just want to put just enough water so that they'll be able to get some of the condensation, some of the moisture, but that they're not going to be sitting there in water. So I'm not going to put any more water than this. I think this is enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this away and I'm going to check on it. So this needs to be tucked away now. You want to keep this out of direct sunlight. You want to keep this in the area where it's going to be a little bit dark. So an area that it can, it's not going to get much light. So I have a nice little area in the living room, like behind the couch. It'll be out of the way, so nobody's going to be knocking it down. And it'll be kind of dark there. So this needs a little bit of, it doesn't need complete darkness, but at least needs a little bit of dark in order to sprout, to grow. And I'm going to make sure everything's pointed up. So the hope is that when it starts to grow, they're going to start to grow up and they'll have this beautiful flowering effect over the top, the rim of the vase. All right. So once it starts to sprout and starts to grow up here, we can take it out of the place, you know, the dark place where you tuck it away, and put it where it can get a couple weeks of direct light. And then what I read, according to my research, once it starts to bloom, in order to keep the blooms going a little bit longer, you might want to take it away from the direct light and put it like on the dining room table or someplace where it's going to get indirect light, so that'll preserve the blooms a little bit longer. So we'll try that. All right, so that is today's project. I think next week I'm going to do something with winter sewing because I've been doing some research on that and I'm kind of excited about it. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.